Good evening once again. Now, President Akufo-Addo has announced 10 names to be vetted as regional ministers. Featuring prominently on the list is Kwame Duncan, who is the New Patriotic Party Central Regional General Secretary. He's been nominated as the Central Regional Minister Designate pending vetting and approval by the legislature. Duncan was key in the landslide victory chalked by the NPP in a region said to be a swing region. Ishmael Ashite returns as the Greater Accra Regional Minister Designate, with Dr. Archibald Letcher and Simon Osei-Mensah named as Volta and Ashanti Regional Minister Designates. Here is the President making the announcement earlier.
The teaching and the language of the Constitution. And it requires that I appoint, with the prior approval of Parliament, for each region a Minister of State who shall. The Regional Minister Designate for the Volta region. It's a very big undertaking. And we have to have somebody who enjoys a lot of public confidence and who people will believe when he says it's a good idea for us to create these regions. So I have the very, very big honor to introduce Archibald Yao Letcher. He has been twice MPP candidate for Ho, unsuccessful. He didn't try the third time like me, he should have. The region which is at the heart, the head and the heart of the New Patriotic Party. With all the complexities there are in managing the affairs of that region, I believe he has both the temperament and the pedigree to be a good representative of the president in the Ashanti region. He's Simon Osei-Mensah. He's the one that we are taking. The next is a colleague, a fellow member of President Kufuor's cabinet, all-rounder, and then a very, very responsible public servant. He's already paid considerably his dues to our country. And we're summoning him again for one last effort in the public life. That is Dr. Kwaku Afriyie. He is the Minister Designate for the Western region. But the Central region, I think, will do with his energy and his concern. He's passionately concerned about the life of his people and whatever he can do to improve it. I believe that he will make an outstanding regional minister. And that is why I'm recommending to the House that Kwame Duncan the transition from regional chairman to regional minister will not be a difficult one for him. His background and experience is already sufficient justification for saying that the Accra now, which is the most populous region in our country, which all of us from different parts of Ghana find ourselves here, will find in him that calm, measured, stable personality that we need to have a successful regional minister. So he's the person that I have sent, whose name I've sent to Parliament for regional minister. That is Ishmael Ashite.
Well, some of the nominees have been speaking to Joy News on what they are bringing on board. Let's start with the Volta Regional Minister Designate, Dr. Archibald Letcher.
I think we need to build bridges with the people. We need to work harder and to make sure that the people understand what our party stands for, and for them to understand that we are Ghanaians like they are, and therefore they should partner us for development.
Your party in the run-up to the elections promised to create another region out of the region. There's also a talk of a harbor, especially in the Keita area.
Right.
How are you hoping to ensure that this comes to fruition?
No, it is a commitment that we made to the people of the Volta region. And as regional minister, I will have to ensure that we live up to our promise to the people.
And beyond these two that I spoke about, the region, employment opportunity is quite low. What is your main objective in transforming the economic potentials of the region?
Yeah, I think our manifesto promise of one district, one factory is a policy that we are going to use to create jobs for the young people in our region.
The Northern Regional Minister Designate also joins us here. Congratulations once again, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are heading to a very volatile region, the Northern region, and the president was clear in his, comments that, potential conflict areas, Yendi, Bimbila, Bumprugu, you have to ensure that these things are resolved so that next time when we come here, it will be success stories that we will be telling. What is the way forward in addressing some of these issues?
Yes, one of the way forward in getting solutions to the conflict challenges in Northern region in particular has to do with even selecting me as a young person. You realize that in most cases, the people they mobilize who have the energy to come out to cause confusion, they use the youth. And that is why they have picked me to be a representative of the young people, people who have the energy and the blood to come out to demonstrate. We want to see and demonstrate to them that young people, if you reduce yourself to good manners, you can be picked to even represent the government, represent your people at the national level, so that you can be able to bring economic development interventions to them. Apart from that, I am somebody who is born and bred and lived in Northern region throughout my life. My background is development studies, and I have been able to learn the theory and the practical aspect of identifying developmental challenges of community. One of the challenges is a conflict. That is what people are looking at Northern region. But much as we have this conflict, we also have very huge potentials in Northern region. So if we are able to get investors to be able to come out to turn their potentials into interventions, factories, industry, when people are engaged and they have very good jobs, very good businesses doing, I am telling you, nobody will want to come out to fight.
One word from Mr. Burkina, you have confidence that Salifu will deliver on the many promises you've made to the people of the Northern region?
Yes, because I am confident. I recommended him to the president, and I am also going to work with him closely. There is nothing, there will be no conflict anymore in the Northern region. I'm assuring you. We have identified that there's no need conflict. We should talk of poverty, jobs. When there are jobs, there are money in your pocket, why do you want to go for conflict?
And let's speak to the Bona Hafo Regional Minister Designate, Mr. Asuma Chairman, whom I've known personally for several years. Congratulations, finally. You've earned your spot. Are you ready for the challenge ahead?
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to all media practitioners, the MPP as a party, the President of the Republic of Ghana. The challenges ahead of us are challenges that we are well convinced and settled in mind. We are so certain that these challenges can be dealt with in a very perfect manner, because this is not the first time that the MPP is coming into government. We did it under President Kufuor's era, and we believe under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo too we can do. Why do I say this? Because we have men that have the skill, we have men who are not corrupt, we have men that are very competent, who are prepared to discharge their responsibilities bestowed on them.
Western Regional Minister Designate, Dr. Kwaku Afriyie, who's already speaking to the media.
I'm sure that it is done.
Well, and I know is that, again, the creation of the Western North.
Yes.
Many people are actually saying that, well, it is not a good thing to do, though the president has mentioned that. What are your responses?
It's absolutely a good thing to do. People do not understand. When you take our history, the history of MPP and its antecedents, there was a time when we were even dabbling with federalism. But it wasn't because we wanted to go our own different ways, but we believe that power resides with the people. And we believe in even devolution of power. So power must devolve from the center to the periphery. And this is, Ghana, we have accepted the fact that it's a unitary state. But the Constitution allows that we can subdivide the various regions and even indeed combine other regions. In the president's mind, I believe that he thinks that the Western region and indeed three other regions can develop if they are subdivided. That will unleash the power that the people at the periphery.
There are 6 of them, and 3 of them were very.
Now, New Patriotic Party faithful in the Ho Central constituency have been celebrating the nomination of a 59-year-old medical doctor and entrepreneur, Dr. Archibald Yao Letcha, as the Volta Regional Minister Designate, announced by President Akufo-Addo earlier Tuesday. Some of the party supporters expressed optimism the Volta region will experience real development with the appointment of Dr. Letcha. Here's the mood at the MPP office at Ho.
That the celebration is ongoing, and it's all about our dear father, Dr. Archibald Yao Letcha from the Ho Central, being nominated for Volta Regional Designate today by the President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And you know, it's with a joy. They say we are happy to the extent that from 1992, Ho Central has never produced a minister, a regional minister.
Yes, if it's true, they talk. If it's true,
we are happy and privileged to have our own doctor as the regional minister designate. We are very happy.
Yes.
Just so happy. You can see the joy at the background.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. First ever. Since 1992. Since 1992.
And jubilant MPP supporters there. Now, the president has appointed Joseph Anoche as the acting director general of the National Communications Authority. The appointment was contained in a January 24, 2017 letter signed by the communications minister designate, Ursula Owusu-Ekufo, who was acting as the president's representative. Mr. Anoche's appointment is expected to take immediate effect if he were to accept the appointment. Until his appointment, Mr. Anoche worked at the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, an independent agency of the executive branch of the United States federal government, responsible for the civilian space program, as well as aeronautics and aerospace research. The technology and communications guru is also credited for mounting a comprehensive, rigorous IT strategy that helped the MPP win the 2016 elections. Mr. Anoche is expected to bring his experience to bear at the NCA and to streamline activities of the authority when he assumes office. The National Communications Authority is the government of Ghana's agency responsible for the licensing of media houses and regulating communications activities and services in the country. The performance of the authority has been an issue of critical concern, with critics suggesting the authority has performed below par. You're watching Joy News Prime. I'm Barbara Kumsin. We're taking a short break. More stories ahead. You're welcome back. Now, the Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Alhassan Suhuyini, has apologized to the Appointments Committee for losing his temper when he was overruled during the vetting of the Minister-designate for Energy, Boakye Jarko, Monday. As you may recall, he was overruled by the committee chairman when he asked the nominee whether he played a role in a criminal conduct at the Bank of New York, which saw 10 officials of the bank being prosecuted in 2007. Some members of the committee, including WA Central MP Rashid Pelpo, tagged the chairman, Joe Osei-Owusu, as, quote, dictator. But Mr. Osei-Owusu explains in this exclusive interview with Elton John Brobe, the MP was overruled because he breached sections of the standing orders.
I'm surprised at this alleged criticisms. I haven't heard any myself. But if it were so, it's unfortunate, because I think that people who are making any such allegations have not sought answers from us at the leadership. First, as to the number of persons who are called to ask questions, and indeed who, I decide with the leadership. I consult the ranking member and the chief whip of the minority, and I consult my vice and the chief whip of the majority, and we agree that for this particular nominee, if we allowed 5 persons each, it should be okay. And I go ahead to ask them to nominate for me which 5 persons should I ask or invite to ask the question. So it's really the decisions of, or the choices of the respective sides that I call to ask questions.
So who to call is, there's been a prior arrangement as to who to call to ask which or what question?
That's exactly how I'm going about the thing. So I don't exercise any discretion, even though technically I should be exercising the discretion. But it's exactly to avoid the charge that is being made against me that I allow the whips to suggest to me who from either side that I should invite to ask the question. So I think that any such criticism is not well placed, because people are not informed about it.
All right, but beyond who to call and to ask which question, the issue here is that you also control how the question is being asked, or how the question is asked, to the extent that sometimes you overrule some of these questions, which according to the questionnaires may be very important. How do you respond to this issue as well?
Well, how important or otherwise, it's only in the head of the person intending to ask the question. But Parliament is regulated by our rules, our standing orders. If you ask questions that are not admissible in view of our standing orders, I will not admit them.
What constitutes admissibility of a question?
Order 67 of the standing orders controls questions and how they should be asked. And if you like, I'll quote some of them for you. Order 67 1A. A question shall not include the names of persons or statements of fact unless they are necessary to make the question intelligible, and in case of statements of fact can be authenticated by the member concerned, or contain charges which the member asking the question is not prepared to substantiate. B, the question shall not contain any arguments, expression of opinion, inferences, imputations, epithets, or controversial, ironical, or offensive expression of hypothetical cases. And the next relevant one is F. A question shall not be asked which makes or implies a charge of a personal character, or which reflects upon character or conduct, except of persons in their official or public capacity. Now, these are the basis upon which I decide which questions will be admitted or not. But in all fairness, I think there are only about 2 or 3 instances where I have overruled. And even that, I allow the persons to go through until I determine that the facts that are being put out are not necessary in determining whether or not a candidate is fit for purpose.
All right.
You know, so I think the charge is really, really unfair. And I can assure you, Let me be specific.
I wanted us to get into the specifics, especially and to come up with names. Yesterday, for example, the Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Alhassan Suhuyini, expressed his displeasure at the way he's been treated on the committee. Now, he laid a foundation before coming to ask a question about some, money laundering allegations against the New York Bank, which the Energy Minister designate used to be the vice president of that committee. Now, you overruled that question. According to him, the question would have afforded Ghanaians the opportunity for the minister designate to explain if he played any role or not, but that issue did not come out at all, as far as your discretion was concerned.
Wait, if you listened, I permitted him to go all the way to the end. And when he asked the question, he showed clearly that he was not alleging that the minister has been named in any misconduct. The minister designate had been named in any misconduct or in any way related to the issues that have worked in the bank, had happened in the bank. I mean, why should, just because he worked in an organization which something happened, and he personally was not involved in it in any way, people who were involved had actually been named and prosecuted, why should that be a basis for asking him a question, not about the bank's conduct, but about his prospective work? I don't see where it relates at all. People may conceive things in their mind, but they must make them relevant.
Well, however, prior to taking the floor to ask his questions on Tuesday during the vetting of Minister Designate for Education, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, Mr. Suhuyini asked the chairman to forgive him for his utterances.
Maybe before my question, if I am indulged, let me take this opportunity to apologize to the chairman of the committee for the fact that I lost my temper at some point yesterday. I sincerely apologize to you if I came across as bad. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the opportunity.
Let's still stay on the vetting, because the Education Minister Designate has advocated for English language to be maintained as the medium of instruction in schools in the country. Matthew Opoku Prempeh explained that because students are not trained for only Ghana, they need to be taught the English language, which makes them globally competitive. Taking his turn before Parliament's Appointments Committee Tuesday, the Menchia South Member of Parliament said attempts to introduce the Ghanaian language as the medium of teaching should be reconsidered. For the last 2 years, Ghanaians have fiercely debated a decision by the then NDC government to change English as the medium of instruction in schools.
We don't train only people for only Ghana. We train ourselves to become globally competitive. And when you look around the world, there's a language of business, there's a language of trade, there's a language of commerce, there's a language of ICT, where even countries with one language learn that as a second language. Thank God we, because of our colonial past, had that language, English. And books and everything is written in English. And I think that we have to look at it again, especially for a country with many languages. Going to pick one and saying that it should be the dominant language where everybody should learn is problematic. China has a language, official language, Mandarin. There are different versions of Mandarin, and it's only one version that has been, and even that in China is a problem. So, not where everybody has a proud culture, history, and tradition, and whose history or tradition should be lost in making one dominant language. And interestingly, if you and your wife, you're from the coast, Fanti, your wife is from the north, Mamprusi, and you speak different languages, and you live because of work in Volta region, Hohoi, which language would your child be instructed in? And so we have to, as a group, as Parliament, think about some of these and decide, because Parliament approves policy, and decide for the country where we have to go. I can't think far on that issue.
Well, the Health Minister Designate has mounted strong defense of the governing MPP's claim that the National Health Insurance Scheme has collapsed. Kweku Agyeman-Manu said the party arrived at the conclusion because of frustration faced by Ghanaians in the accessibility of services provided by the scheme. Responding to a question before Parliament's Appointments Committee, the Doma Central MP said the NHIS has been unable to achieve its objectives due to needless political interference.
I have looked at a report of the committee that President Mahama set up to do a review. The recommendations in there are quite insightful. And we're thinking of also putting in a little bit more management expertise. And I believe with a little bit of funding, innovatively coming in, we can get it done. Health insurance, my colleagues, I think when I'm giving the note, that is an area I will continuously plead with all members of the two political divides, the large ones, to take away the little tiny politics that we do away from. Because if you are able to turn round the fortunes of the National Health Insurance, all of us MPs will be happier than any other stakeholder. At least the demand burden of support for healthcare will have been taken off completely from our heads. And I think that will be good for us. Apart from that, we will have given something that will make us as representatives of the people happier, in the sense that people can access healthcare so easily and affordably.
Yeah, welcome back. Now, Deputy Majority Leader in Parliament, Sarah Adjo-Safo, Asin Central MP Kennedy Ohene-Japong, and former MP for Navrongo Central, Mark Wayongo, are among the 50 worst performing MPs between 2012 and 2016. That's according to the latest report by civil society organization Odikro, which assesses the performance of MPs of the 6th Parliament. Joseph Akable has more in this report.
The organization relied on information from Parliament's official website, Hansard, order paper, votes and proceedings as data to assess the MPs on attendance and contribution on the floor of the House, as well as during committee meetings. The findings indicate that 52 MPs out of the 275 contributed to amendments to over 81 bills approved by Parliament. The report reveals majority of the bills passed centered on tax bills introduced to impose or revise taxes, custom duties and levies. Presenting the findings, content manager of the organization, Lolan Ekosego, said Parliament's engagement with civil society organizations was low.
Over 1,500 committee reports. Of those 1,500 committee reports, we found that Parliament had engaged with CSOs only 4% of the time. So that is in about 55 committee reports. There was a record of Parliament having met with, let's say, the Ghana Federation for the Disabled or Imani or another CSO. And so that's a very, very low rate of engagement with CSOs. On the performance of MPs, MP for Old Trafford, Dr. Anthony Akotose was ranked as the best MP, followed closely by MP for Ketu North, James Kluchi Aveji. Evans Paul Edu, who represented Sefrioso in the 6th Parliament, was placed last in the performance ranking. Some 19 MPs were classified as silent MPs who failed to utter a single statement in their 4 years in the House. 19 MPs from 2013 to 2016 did not utter a single word on the floor of Parliament. Now, we find that very disappointing, especially since one of them was Deputy Chief Whip on the majority side. And so she was a leader and had preferential access to speech on the floor of Parliament, but didn't take advantage of it. And so naturally, we're curious, what were some of the reasons why MPs may or may not have spoken in Parliament? Reacting to findings, MP for Whole West Emmanuel Kwesi Bejira commended the organization, but added it may not reflect the actual situation.
Well, especially when you're a first timer, it's difficult for you to make statement. You need to grow to the process to be able to make statement. But I'm not holding brief for anybody who has not made statement. Statement on the floor of the House is not the only thing that we do. We have committee meetings. You contribute at the committee level. As for statement, just one out of it. You ask questions on the floor of the House, questions ministers, and also you contribute at the committee level. So these are the things that they have to look at. It's not only about making statement. I also mentioned that there's one particular person who comes to the floor and talk. And that person has been marked 0, that he has not contributed. What about that too? Look at the report. You notice that those who were rated 50 high are chairmen of committees, and they late report. They debate the report. They bring the report to the floor of the House. So they are giving preference to speak. And that's the rules of the House. We can't change unless we change our standing orders.
The organization is calling for timely upload of records of the House as well as voting records of members of Parliament to aid research.
We have tried to reach some members of Parliament who were mentioned in the report. Madame Adjoa Safo, to be specific, she has declined comment. Well, moving on, executives of the Junior Staff Union of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority say their lives are in danger after receiving death threats, calls and messages. Secretary of the Tema Local Union, Keku Amoakwesi Amuzwa, says the threats come on the heels of their news conference last Thursday, which has led to the dismissal of their Director General, Richard Anamu.
The executives who do not feel safe after last Thursday's news conference suspect loyalists to outgoing Director General are behind threatening calls and messages to them. Last week's news conference addressed by unions from Tema and Takoradi leveled some allegations against the Director General Richard Anamu, including unprecedented level of corruption, nepotism, abuse of office, and cronyism. Though the ultimate goal for the press conference has been achieved with the dismissal of the Director General, the executives have been served with query letters for organizing the press conference. In an interview with Joy News, Kweku Amokwesi Amuzwa says his job is on the line, but the risk is worth it.
Threatening us, but we are managing it. We are managing it. We are yet to make those complaints to the police department and sections. Warning staff not to partake in the press conference. We, the executive who partaked in the press conference, we have all been given query letters. Because we exhausted all the grievance procedures in the collective agreement, which is a document that we work with, we will overcome it. What we want them to do is, let's all come together as a body, forge forward and build GPHE.
The junior staff who are grateful to government for heeding to their call want a new Director General who will work with laid down procedures. The staff want government to investigate the issues raised at their news conference. The workers feel Tema and Takoradi ports can generate much revenue which could be used in developing Ghana apart from the direct and indirect jobs the two ports create.
Staff of GPHE were in jubilation, and virtually every department or section you go, people were very happy when the news came out. Yeah, what we are expecting government to do is for government to set an investigation into what we brought to the public domain. Yes. We see some problem in the port expansion, the IT area, the automation of the port, there's a problem. Sole sourcing, buying of equipment and craft and other this thing. Yeah, we think there's a problem there. Employment, promotions, yeah, and abuse of the Director General's residence. Yeah.
The junior staff are showing government of their commitment to working hard in uplifting the image of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Kwame Yankes report for Joy News.
Now, a planned ceremony to induct the Gamanche Ni Taki Adamalache II as president of the Ghana Traditional Council will not happen as the IGP meets two feuding factions involved in an impasse over the swearing-in of the Gamanche as the president of the Ghana Traditional Council. The timely intervention of the police Monday morning averted a clash between two youth groups over the matter. One of the groups, believed to be loyalists of the acting president Ni Dodu Insaki II, vowed to resist any attempt to allow the Gamanche access the palace for some rituals to be performed before the planned induction ceremony. Join News' Max.
Carefully positioned here right outside the Gamanche Palace. Now, I've been having interactions with a deep throat source with the Ghana Police Service. Now, he tells me that there's going to be a meeting later today with Inspector General of Police and settle this issue amicably. Outside the precincts of the Gamanche Palace itself, there are loose bandanas hanging onto the poles here and the main gate itself. As we stand here, the police presence here keeps increasing. We have a lot of police officers joining their colleagues from the Greater Accra Regional Command here on the grounds at Gamanche Palace. Maxwell Agogba for Joy News.
Now, former President Kufuor has urged government to step up its commitment in ending hunger and malnutrition in Ghana. His comment comes as the John Agyekum Kufuor Foundation launches the Ghana Zero Hunger Strategic Review. The foundation is partnering the UN to assist in government's quest to address hunger and malnutrition. Beatrice Edu has more.
The Ghana Zero Hunger Strategic Review forms part of programs of the John Agyekum Kufuor Foundation to ensure that the country meets its target of ending hunger. The move is in line with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 2, which focuses on ending hunger, malnutrition and food insecurity. Addressing the gathering, former President Kufuor outlined why it has become important to ensure hunger ends.
Hunger can be very costly to a country. In a recent study of hunger in Ghana, it has been estimated that in 2012 alone, hunger cost an estimated 6% of the country's GDP, amounting to 4.6 billion Ghana cedis. This cost resulted from the failure to address nutrition, which has debilitating outcomes in terms of foregone productivity, decreased educational outcomes, and increased health burden. This loss should not be allowed to continue.
William Ejapon, who spoke on behalf of the incoming Minister for Agric, assured government would work hard to achieve the goals.
Government is fully aware of its agreement and support to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Goal number 2, which aims to end hunger, achieve food security and improved nutrition, and also promote sustainable agriculture. It is also aware of the roles of World Food Program and your foundation. We wish to assure you that the agricultural policies and programs developed for implementation will perfectly achieve the aims and objectives of the SDGs.
On her part, UN Representative Christine Evans-Clark urged all stakeholders to stay focused on fulfilling the goals.
They demand progress at every link in a long chain that connects agriculture, rural development, water and sanitation, health, education, the environment, social protection, transportation infrastructure, and crisis prevention. It's a challenge that is at once local and global, because the connection between food and nutrition security and climate change and agriculture sustainability was in fact the focus of our commemoration of World Food Day last October. On that occasion, then UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon urged all of us to take a holistic, collaborative, and integrated approach to climate change, food security, and equitable social and economic development. And I call for that coherence today.
One of the effects of hunger is malnutrition, and the John Agyekum Kufuor Foundation is worried about its impact on children. Bafwa Jimendua is the chief executive of the foundation.
As you know, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 2, requires that in places, especially in Africa, we should reach zero hunger by the year 2030. So every nation is charged to find a way to meet that goal. And as you know, hunger and starvation debilitates people's development and progress. The former president was referring to what we call the gray matter infrastructure. Hunger, starvation leads to many visible things like stunting, wasting, and underweight, at times obesity and all that. But there is this hidden effect, which is the brain. When a child is conceived and the mother is not on good nutrition, it's going to affect the child's development. So the whole idea here is not just to fight hunger, but also to ensure that the food we eat is nutritious.
Now, 57 personnel from the Ghana National Fire Service in the Upper West region have up to the close of day today to report at their new stations or face sanctions. Although officials of the service say that transfers are to achieve discipline and maximum output from personnel, the affected officers, however, say they are being punished for refusing to pay a levy for the construction of a gym and canteen. Rafiq Salam has more.
The letter, which was issued and signed by the Upper West Regional Commander of the Ghana National Fire Service, Assistant Chief Fire Officer James Emmanuel Kwao, on January 17, 2017, transferred 57 officers from their current place of work to another. The transfers are to take effect by the close of 24th January 2017. The purpose, according to the Regional Fire Officer, is to achieve maximum output from personnel and also to bring about discipline and control in the various command districts in the region.
Some have stayed at a particular municipality or a district for over 26 years without a change. Majority of them have stayed over 15 good years without change. And this is bringing different entrenched themselves as a thing God in their various districts and then municipalities. And if you don't change them, indiscipline will set in. And as part of the service regulations and the conditions, there is a need for them to be changed to other districts so that others will also come. We want to realign the personnel, realign the stations. Some of them are understaffed, and as such, we have to improve their staffing so that the service can move forward and then deliver as expected.
He has warned that all personnel who refuse to report at their new stations before the close of Tuesday, January 24, will have disciplinary measures taken against them, which could lead to their dismissal.
They shouldn't grumble because in their own handwriting of acceptance into the service, they agreed that anywhere that they will be transferred to, they will go. So why do they grumble by this time? For instance, from 2012 to date, just 5 years, I've gone through 3 regions, and somebody is sitting at a particular municipality for 26 years, 15 years, not the best.
However, some of the affected personnel who spoke to me off camera stated that they have no qualms about the transfer, but believe that he's doing that in an attempt to dismember them for resisting to pay an amount of 60 Ghana cedis levied on every personnel of the service in the region for the construction of a canteen and a gym, of whose work is currently ongoing.
You are sending us to go and dump us there. We have left our families and going to our new stations to cram ourselves like sardines. No accommodation for us. So many chief fire officers have come. And because of this accommodation problem, they were not transferring people like that. He has come and he is not having a human face, but we know the trick. It is because he asked us to pay 60 Ghana cedis each for the construction of a gym and a canteen, and we refused. That is why he said we should go.
An allegation the Assistant Chief Fire Officer has flatly refused. Reporting for J News, Rafiq Salam.
Well, as we indicated, the vetting process is still underway. Let's cross over briefly to Parliament, where the Agricultural Minister-designate, Dr. Owusu Afriyie Akoto, is responding to questions from members of the Appointments Committee.
to 750, 800. That it should tell you that there's something wrong with our cocoa economy in this country. Yeah, no. So if he rolls out all these figures are only meaningful. These figures.
Honorable Kopoku, order, please.
These figures are.
Honorable Omri, please continue.
These figures are only meaningful if you put them in statistical trends. And any trends that you put in over the last 20 years will show you that we went up and we are coming down. That should be a source of worry for Honorable Opoku, because he comes from a cocoa area, and these farmers are being reduced into penury with declining production, and he doesn't seem to be worried about that, trying to defend or give the impression that production is going up or what?
Honorable, don't personalize the answer. You're talking to the chairman, not Honorable.
Mr. Chairman, yes. So I'm a bit mystified by all these jabber of statistics that he's put on the table. And
are you done? Have you had all your 3 chances here?
Capricious.
1. You've done 3.
Last one.
Honorable Netu.
You still want me to answer a question? It's friendly fire, like I said. Honorable nominee, congratulations. I'm happy for you. You have shown knowledge for the last 4 years. And your competence to me is not in doubt at all. So let me take this opportunity to congratulate you again. The MPP in their manifesto and on the campaign trails, led by you, I said the party led by him in the agri sector, has said that to develop cash crops, we needed to focus on some selected crops to enable us grow. Ivory Coast has picked about 3 or 4 crops, and they earn over $3 billion every year. And you have strongly defended that at the Manifesto Committee. You strongly defended that position on the campaign trails. I want you to tell us what are your plans to ensure that Ghana over the next 4 years get to the stage that Ivory Coast is, or even better, in terms of these selected crops that you want to select and get and get us to the promised land.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The fact of the matter is Ghana has great potential in all kinds of cash crops, except that we haven't really focused to develop them. There are certain crops that the farmers, the stakeholders, farmers, traders, processors are better organized. One of them is palm oil palm. They have an association, they are well motivated, the executives are knowledgeable. The other is cashew, the other is the Poultry Farmers Association. So all these are potential, just lying, waiting for someone to wake them up. Fortunately for us, we have experts who have the knowledge and the experience to develop such crops. And one of them is sitting on my right-hand side, the Honorable Kwetu. I mean, the amount of experience. I've worked with him in the field before he came to Parliament, and his knowledge about these things are incredible. So if the government will support these selected crops and associations to develop, it will be of enormous help because the pressure is on to create jobs. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, if you may recall, 2011, the Poultry Farmers Association of Ghana petitioned Madam Speaker then about the fact that the government was not giving them enough support. Madam Speaker referred that petition to us in the Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs Committee. And we met the national leadership. And Mr. Chairman, I was so impressed. The professionalism with which they came, with the quality of data, with their business plan, and so on. And one statistic sticks in my memory up till today. They said that in 2011, that year, if the government were to assist them to produce at full capacity, they would produce 450,000 jobs. And that's one activity in the whole agricultural sector. So it shows you the potential that these selected products have for us in solving our unemployment problem, in creating rural incomes and opportunities for the mass of our people. So that is what we intend to do, that we will, cashew, for instance, from 10,000 metric tons. The government then had a cashew development program of 5 years or so, which ended 2011. They were able to pick cashew to 50,000 metric tons. The second stage was to move from 50 to 120,000. That phase never happened, just like the coffee pilot, which never saw the light of day.
So those were excerpts of the vetting of the Agric Minister Designate, Dr. Owusu Afriyie Akoto. Back to Parliament, where the Agric Minister Designate, Dr. Owusu Afriyie Akoto, is being grilled by members of the Appointments Committee.
No bonus, low working conditions, price imposition.
At the time you were chief executive.
This is the first time I'm hearing of this, Mr. Chairman.
Well, Mr. Chairman, my final question will be on agriculture modernization and job creation. The nominee clearly is passionate about job creation, has promised massive jobs for the youth, but at the same time has talked about mechanizing our agriculture. There appears to be a universal convergence that the more you mechanize agric and the more you modernize agric, you reduce farmhands. And so how do you, being an expert in the sector, how do you assure us that as you modernize, you bring in all these mechanized irrigation systems and all of that, we will not have a situation where humans are replaced with machines, as happened in most modern economies, where there are fewer people in the agriculture sector. Seeing that your vision is to let these agricultural reforms create jobs, especially for the youth of our country.
Mr. Chairman, I think Honorable Kujeto is one of the observers who think that modernizing agriculture is all about mechanization. It's not. The average farm in India is smaller than the average farm in Ghana. The average farm in India is bigger than the average farm in China. Yet these are giants in the world agricultural export market. I mean, when I was a student in Cambridge, I remember very well. Every year, the whole world came together in either Paris, New York, or other Western capitals to pledge food to India, because people were dying in their hundreds of thousands every year because of starvation. They were not producing enough. Using the same structure, India over the last 25 years has come out as one of the biggest exporters of agricultural commodities in the world. So it's not a question of just abandoning small holdings and going for big mechanization as its role. the smallholder has its role. And this document that I'm holding, Planting for Food and Jobs, is not talking about mechanization or any. There are no tractors here. And yet we are talking about creating 750,000 jobs with 1.4 billion on the on-farm increase in incomes. All by these pillars I was talking about: improved seeds, applying fertilizers, getting extension officers to supervise the farmers to make sure things are done properly, guaranteeing a market for them, and applying e-technology to monitor the amount of fertilizers distributed to farmers, the amount of seeds distributed to them, the produce that they are bringing out, and all that. So these are the 5 pillars that we intend to use to create, and this is only the first year. I call this a pilot because 2018, at the same time, we'll be doing maybe twice, 3 times what we have targeted here to do. And this is very modest. And it is costing only 560 million to do that. The budget is here. And we are going around. I met the donors only last...
Chairman, sorry, just the figure again.
700, and if you want to be exact, please let me quote it for you. 560 million. 560 million Ghana cedis.
560 million Ghana cedis.
Among the seed, fertilizer, extension services, marketing, and e-fertilizer and monitoring.
How do you intend to raise that? Finance from budget or from any other sources?
No,
just share with us.
And that's what I was coming to. I think you were reading my mind. The fact of the matter is that there are 97 projects, agricultural projects by the development partners. I met them last week, and I'm telling them we have a new vision here. So they should reorientate all that money that they are spending on these pockets of projects and support this. And so we intend to appeal to our development partners to support us with this, and whatever shortfall, they will fall back on the budget to assist.
Chairman, I note that having attained middle income status, financing, particularly from some of the donors, will be difficult. May the nominee share with us how he intends to finance that noble idea of a document he has. We should expect that in the first year, government may be able to do 20 million, 30, 40, and then you expect donors to bring 20, 100 million throughout. Just give us the exact. How will this 560 million be raised? Donor, how much? Domestic GOG, how much?
The 560 million is something like below 130 million US dollars. The whole budget of the Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Fisheries, the last budget which was presented to the last parliament, was only 560 million. And we are saying that this project alone is equivalent to that. So we are expecting the responses that we are getting, because we have a vision, a framework for doing this thing. The response has been very, very good. And I'm confident.
I'm still on. Sorry,
excuse me. Can I explain?
Yes, do.
So I am very confident, in spite of whatever view that you may have, that we'll be able to raise majority of this money in the next 3 months to start this project. Nothing is going to stop us.
In the next 3 months, thank you. But Chairman, just to remind the nominee that he's aware that